Hello, we are live.
Woo! It was a crazy day already.
Yeah, I was a little bit late. Danielle was a little bit late. It's all good. We're all good.
We're here.
We're here, ready to chit chat about many a book.
Yeah, we got a ton.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is Danielle.
Oh yeah. Hi.
I'm Lizzie. We together host the Throwback Book Club. Discord link down below. We read books that are throwback faves. And we usually read like 3 books every 2 months, basically. This current cycle, which we are mainly here to discuss, is a collection of John Green's.
I love that you have them ready to go.
Yes, I own all of the John Greens from my teenagerhood. We have The Fault in Our Stars. We have Let It Snow, co-written with Maureen Johnson and Lauren Miracle. And we have An Abundance of Catherines, which I just finished about a half hour ago. So, however, we are also here because our previous cycle, we read the Uglies series, which I do not have physically, and we did not manage to have a live show for those. So we're going to discuss those briefly and then move on to the meat and potatoes, which is the John Green.
Which kind of worked out, because the further we've gotten from the Ugly series, the less I feel like I really had to say.
Yeah.
It was mediocre at best.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, so where should we just launch right in?
Yeah, should we start with a little bit of Uglies?
A little bit of Uglies? Yeah. What were your overall thoughts, series as a whole?
I was impressed by the first one. I actually liked it a lot. And then the second and third, I think I remember I really didn't like the second.
Yeah.
And then the third, I didn't like either because it just started feeling so just like unoriginally repetitive.
Yeah, for sure.
I did like the love interest stuff. I think it was kind of fun, the directions it went with that. And then I really did like the bonus specials, though. I actually liked that one.
Yeah, the
extras. Yeah.
Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience where the first one was like really fun, really nostalgic. Not really any huge complaints. Like it was silly and it was like very of the time, but like it was nostalgic. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. Like I liked it. And then it just tanked. Like I was talking to my brothers about this the other day that like there's stuff in the second and third book that absolutely would not be published today. It's like actively glorifying self-harm and eating disorders, which like is just absurd to be in a book for teenagers.
Well, it was crazy because the first book, it felt like, there would be moments of kind of annoying comments about people's bodies, but it felt intentional, like he was trying to say this is society, and then it kind of just fell apart in the last two, and it felt just like it was there on purpose.
Yeah. And it's like maybe there was something that he was trying to say about that, but I think it was too subtle to be picked up by a young adult audience. If it was there, it was not clear that was.
And it was my first time reading them. I had never read them. So I didn't have any of them either.
I did read them as a teen. I don't think I read the last one, the spinoff. I have very positive memories of this series, and I didn't remember that element. But when I read it, or when someone mentioned it in the chat, like Conan Morning this chapter, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely remember that, reading that and it affecting me. So.
Yeah, part of what I'm thinking of too is the first one I had said how I really liked the way the world felt built for that book. Like I liked the mentions of the society before. Like it felt intentional. Then I remember the acknowledgments for the second or third book. It said something along the lines of, thank you to the fans who, like, your opinions shaped the next novels. And I don't think that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it like then was less where I was like, well, what were you trying to do then? Because
yeah, like what's your message, Scott Westerfeld? What are you trying to say?
Because then when we went and did extras, which came out like a few years later, I really enjoyed that one. I thought that opened up the world in a cool way again.
Yeah. I also enjoyed the extras one. I my ratings were 3.5 to 2.5, 3, I think.
I don't remember, but I think it was like maybe like even like 4, 2, 2, 3, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The movie, atrocious. That was such
it was fun, but it was bad.
It was so incredibly bonkers at the end.
Yeah, they it was like, I don't even know. Like they knew they weren't getting a sequel, so they just like shoved some stuff in there. It was wild. Fun.
Yeah,
though.
The guys were watching, having not read. Emmett read the first book with me, and he liked it. He did not want to continue it. And then when we watched the movie, though, I was like, "Did you guys get anything from that?" And they both said, "I had no idea what was happening."
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine, especially if you hadn't read the book, be like, what even is going on? Because us, as people who had read the book, were like, what even was going on?
I do also kind of feel like it's one of those things where the titles are almost giving away too much now when you reread it. Because literally when I did my vlog, I was like, well, the third one's called Specials, and this one's called this one. I feel like it probably would have been more fun when you didn't know what the next one would be about.
Yeah.
Those are probably all my thoughts on that, though. It was not worth rereading.
I mean, I'm glad I did, only because I had this impression from my childhood that this was a good one. And so I'm glad I I'm glad I think if I hadn't reread it, I would have been wondering, you know?
That's a good point, because it was always on my list of like, everyone's read this and I haven't.
But yeah, it was a time.
Does he have any other big series?
I think so, actually. Not bigger, but I feel like he's written a lot of other stuff. I'm going to Goodreads him.
The silence while we search.
Yeah. Okay, Scott Westerfeld has written Leviathan.
I get him and Schusterman's picked up. Oh, I read Leviathan. I did read that one. Yes.
And then also The Secret Hour, Peeps, Touching Darkness. None of them I think are as big. I mean, none of them are nearly enough.
I do remember seeing Leviathan though. So, and
Zero. In the graphic novel, there's an illustrator listed.
Oh yeah, I am intrigued by the graphic novel of this. I do kind of want to give that a shot. And then there is a second, sorry, that was Charmin. Then there is there's an entire second series too.
Oh.
Where the books are called like Imposters, I think is that. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing them now. Imposters, yeah.
It's a spin-off of the Ugly series.
Interesting.
Yeah, and one of them, book 4, is called Young Bloods. Tally.
Oh yeah. I see.
I don't know if that'll happen, but it is an option.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody absolutely loves these, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
Shall we move along?
Yes, because I feel like these 3 books are the epitome of what this club was for.
Yeah.
See what is good and what was bad. And what
and they all were they're all mostly by the same author, and they're so different.
Should we start with, I personally would want to start with Let It Snow.
Okay.
I don't know, I just feel like that's the conversation that I'm feeling.
Okay. Let It Snow. Shall we synopsize a little bit? in case people are
Yes.
watching and haven't read it. It's 3 like novella short story situations that all like kind of tie together at the end. It's set in the same place, and like the characters make cameos in each other in different ones, and then they all kind of come together at the end, but not really in a huge way. They're really pretty separate stories that all take place on Christmas Eve to Christmas Day, in this like small town in a blizzard.
This was kind of like ahead a little bit. Like this was the Disney Channel crossover moment that was a little ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Because then you had the Christmas ones with like Stephanie Perkins that came out later.
Oh,
those
yeah.
collections. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, so like the first one was Maureen Johnson, right? And that was the one about Jubilee.
Yes. Sure how I felt. But by the time I finished the collection, it made me enjoy the first one more. Because I couldn't tell certain moments where like the parents were a little odd. They felt weird for me, but I could tell it was kind of self-aware of that fact. Like she's purposely like, they're being weird. Like this is not normal. And then when I finished the collection, I was like, okay, this was intentional. I enjoyed that one.
I agree. I think I mean, this book is also so nostalgic for me. I got it as a Christmas gift from a friend. I was like probably 12. When did it come out? Shortly after it came out. I got it as a Christmas gift from a friend. She gave it to me, 2008. So like it would have been, I probably got it when I was around 12.
And that's your copy from your friend? That's so cute.
And she gave it to me before Christmas, because like on like the last day of school or whatever, and I read it on the way, like because my family always drove out to Indiana from Maryland for Christmas, and it's like a long drive, and I read this all on the way to Indiana. And so like I did that several times. Like I did it the first time, and then I'd be like, oh, I should read Let It Snow on the Drive.
That's so fun.
And then I read it on my way to Indiana. I was flying. But I started it beforehand, but I finished it on the plane to Indiana. So that was really fun. It's very nostalgic for me. I love this. I think like, what did I rate it? What did you rate it?
That's a good question.
I rated it 3.5. And I feel like I mean, that's like nostalgia factor, but also like, I do think they're sweet stories and they tie together well.
I rounded up to a 4, but in my comments, I said maybe like a 3.75, 3.5. Okay. So definitely, I would lean toward good. I don't think there was anything that was inherently bad about it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it was good. It wasn't like, okay, my laptop wants to restart, so I need to like, schedule restart 2 a.m. That's fine.
You sound fine though. It's not glitching or anything.
Okay, good. Yeah, like this was a good, fun, sweet book for me. John Green's story was the worst. I think we agree on that.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
It was very John Green, but it was also like very teenage boy.
Yeah.
In like a gross way.
It was just, I also just found it straight boring.
Yeah.
Like I was just not, it didn't have exactly what you're saying. Like the 2 other stories felt like they had a self-awareness that felt Christmassy. Like they were learning something about Christmas or coming to something. And his was just like, I'm in a blizzard and I have a crush on a girl, and my friends not like other friends.
I know. I guess like the point is that like, I mean, it's silly, but like the point or like the moral of his story was like, what you think you want is not what you necessarily actually want. But it also, I think like the stakes of like, we've got to get to the Waffle House before the other guys were just kind of lame.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think his writing is so difficult too, and I'm sure we'll talk more with the other 2. It's so hard because he's one of those authors that, like, some things are so good and some things are so bad. And so much can change what you think those parts are.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I also think his story in this, his writing in this, was the most of its time. Like, the other two stories, I feel like were pretty timeless. But his was like, oh yeah, this was written in 2008.
I totally agree.
By a white man in 2008, you know?
And I was surprised by the last story because when I started it, I was really kind of bothered by some of the comments, like calling her indigenous boyfriend exotic and like these comments. But then it was fun to see it be kind of like a Christmas Carol, not with the ghosts, but where she learns like my behavior in the past isn't good and I need to learn.
Absolutely.
So it really turned it around for me, and I was like, okay, this is conscientious of these views that it's having.
Exactly. And like, you kind of hate Addie, but you feel for her at the same time, and then you're like so glad that she's growing, was my experience.
Yeah, I was rooting for her, which was fun. I see a comment from Abby. Thanks, Abby. Oh. I appreciate it. I hope you're having good holidays too.
I said Addie with D's in the middle, A-D-D-I-E. So
I like the way the stories intertwined, but even when the guy from John Green's book appears at the end
at the Starbucks, it's like you're so not relevant.
And then he was like, I do appreciate that he like tipped her, like he knew he was being kind of annoying, so he tipped her better, and she was like, okay. But still, I was just like, get out of my story, brother.
Get over yourself.
It was fun. I would recommend it. I know that it's not Christmas anymore, but it's still kind of the holidays, so I do still kind of hope we watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because it being a 2019 movie with like a pretty big cast. I'm like kind of intrigued how they did it.
Yeah. I actually did watch it when it came out.
Spicy.
But I don't have a lot of memories of it. So it was 5 years ago now.
Well, if nobody else wants to watch it with us, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch it. Yeah, any other thoughts on this one?
I'm thinking I don't think so, but I actually would kind of, it was one of the better holiday books I read this year, where it was simple. You could easily just read one of those stories a day for a few days and you'd be happy.
Yeah. Abby says this, the holiday showed an Angel Presents Day, because earlier Abby was like, so when are we going to take down the tree? And I was like, we're not.
Never. I know. We have my family coming in. So I started putting a couple things away, but I'm not doing it all. I'm like, no. It's free decorations that can stay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had any other thoughts. I distinctly remember, like, I hadn't read this in many years. Like, I read it several times when I was younger, but I hadn't read it in many years. And there was a lot that I'd forgotten about it, but the details of, like, the teacup pig and the twister and the teacup pig, I'm sure is
it's so 2008.
It's very 2008.
Oh, 2008.
But very fun.
Yeah.
So.
But I like that it was her going. Yeah, I just think it was really sweet. I think the lessons were good. It's sad that John Green's was lame.
Yeah, no, I agree. Which do you want to discuss next?
I think in abundance, because I think we should end on a high note. And that is,
I agree.
I think we're going to be on that together.
Yeah.
So, An Abundance of Catherine's follows our main character. Don't remember his name, but he is a child prodigy. And he is kind of dealing with the fact that he's growing up and he's no longer this class of like, it's kind of, I did like that part of just like a burnt out
gifted kid.
Gifted kid, exactly.
Yeah. And it's him. Pause real quick to say that theoretically, if someone was guessing the size of my Kindle, I would direct them to my Amazon wish list, because I believe there is a Kindle case on there that I know will work.
This is also my advice, because I don't know anything about Kindles.
And if you can't find it, I'll send you a link.
Theoretically.
The theoretical Kindle.
This book is very theoretical. It's about maths.
Exactly.
This kid loves maths.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to.
But him and his best friend decide they're going to take a road trip because he's just been broken up with, like, by his 21st Catherine or something like that.
Yes.
19th Catherine. So they take a little last-minute road trip and wind up in this small little town where they get a job. And his whole goal is that he wants to come up with a theorem for how a relationship will end.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I hated it so much.
I didn't hate it. It's probably a 2.5 star for me.
I gave it a 2, and it's lucky I gave it a 2. I hated it. I was so set this was my favorite book.
Yeah, that's shocking.
I was so set.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
No.
I think it might have been, but it's not now. I don't
know. So tell me more, and I will agree or disagree.
My ultimate thing for this is a lot of these books have certain elements that don't age well. Yeah. The intense fat phobia in this one really was just, it was enough to ruin the entire experience for me because it just never ended. And it wasn't even like, because I think in the group chat, Martine pointed out that he does write not necessarily likable, quote unquote, characters because they do try to learn a lesson. But I was so annoyed by even like the fat best friend making all these fat references about himself. And I was just sitting there thinking like John Green is just writing all these things. Yeah. And it just was so, it was pretty distracting from my enjoyment. Beyond that, that's why like I still gave it a 2 though, because I do think it wasn't like the most offensive thing. It's just something that I would not ever look toward picking up again. Yeah. And then the whole small town thing, I don't know, it's just one of those things where the whole time I was like, why are we here? What's happening?
I will 100% agree on the fat phobia. Like, that was pretty bad.
Of all the books we've read, the entire club, that one was crazy in how bad it was.
Yeah. I like kind of, Colin is so unlikable, but I had a little bit of a soft spot for him. I think he was like an interestingly written character, at least, of like the washed up child prodigy, very self-centered, needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around him.
It felt like it did. It felt like the world of the book did revolve around him. Which, I mean, I get, that's just books. But, you know, I was just already mad.
And I did really like the math in it. I thought that was cute and fun.
Danielle Younger must have liked it. But current Danielle?
No. Did you read the appendix?
No.
Or did you skip it? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay, because it's written by, not by John Green, but by his mathematician friend who like was it just explains the math basically. And I thought that actually was really well written and well done, the appendix, because it explains the math on like a young adult level and I thought it did it well.
I do think it was, I liked the idea that he was so hyper fixated on there has to be an answer for everything and learning that like it doesn't actually work that way. I liked the little nods, spoiler alerts. I liked at the end when he was like, she's going to break up with me. And then he got that letter in the morning that was like, I think that was all cute.
Yeah. I also like that we didn't actually see how that relationship ends, like the book ends before that relationship ends. And so it's like, yeah, like, you can't predict it. You don't know what happens. He doesn't know what happens. It's just going to play out how it plays out.
I don't like travel quest road trip stories. We know this, but I do actually think this could have benefited from one other setting. of like, I don't know, I feel like the whole reason for the trip was to, there was a lot of reasons for their trip to grow and learn in different ways, but I just wish I hate this feeling of like a forced romance thrown in too. Where it's like, I did like them together. I didn't dislike them. Yeah. But I wish it was more of like an actual self-discovery that wasn't with the backdrop of him and a girl getting together.
Yeah. It was, they did get to their destination really fast. Because it's a short book. So they like really all of a sudden were there. Seems like they drove for like an hour.
I think ultimately I was just in my feels about the sentence by sentence level and the kinds of jokes and the kinds of slurs, and it was just not, it just really, this was the hardest one. I had a hard time like differentiating the work from the author and the tone from the voice of the character. And which, when did this one come out? This is one of his later ones. I just
had that thought. It's an earlier one for him, but it's not his first. 2006.
And then like when did, okay, and then The Fault in Our Stars is 6 years later.
Yeah. I think this might be his second book, because I know his first was Looking for Alaska.
Which, you know what, when I was younger, I am interested if we do them like in another set of John Green in the future, because that was like my favorite book of all time growing up, and then I reread it as an adult and it was horrible. I hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Looking for Alaska was?
Yeah, the first time it was 5 stars. I bought special editions of it. It was my favorite book. This reread it, it was a 2-star. I hated it so much.
Can you hear that whirring noise that just started?
Yes.
Okay, I will switch laptops.
It's getting crazier. It was like literally fine, and then I'm so sorry. Okay, well, I'll yap while she's doing that. I just don't think this one was good. This one just made me sad. I feel like, you know, it's just really a product of its time. And we were talking in the group chat a little bit where I understand that a lot of kids still can talk in a harsh way now, and they use terms that are harsh and rude. But I'm happy that my surrounding is not that anymore. And so I hated that. Do you have a favorite John Green? I'm asking the Void. Does the Void have any favorite John Greens? I wonder if there was ever a movie for An Abundance of Catherine's planned. Let's see. An Abundance of Catherine's movie was abandoned. In 2007, John Green announced that his book had been purchased and he would write the screenplay. However, it was abandoned. That's fascinating. Fun. Intriguing. Interesting. It's just me. We got a friend back. I did some research while you were gone because I was looking up to see if there was a movie of this one. And in 2007, the rights were sold and then the film was abandoned.
Yes, I think I remember that. Not it happening, but I remember like looking that up or being talked about.
Yes, yes. So those are probably most of my thoughts, though. I probably just was bothered by certain things more than I needed to be, but I didn't want to be reading it. That's for sure.
I mean, it's so reasonable. I just don't think this is his strongest writing in general. Like, I don't think it's his strongest plot, and I don't think it's his strongest writing. And it is what it is, you know?
Should we talk about his strongest writing? Because
are we here?
it was so fucking good. It was so
This
good.
was really good.
God.
And I'm so I'm so pleased that this was so good.
This is what we want this club
Because I
for.
remember it being so good. Exactly. And like I finished it on the plane or like on the drive on the way from Chicago to my destination. I listened to the audiobook of this actually. And the audiobook I thought was really good. Did
I
you
did
listen to the audiobook
immersion.
at all?
I did the immersion. So I did audio and physical.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you not sob like a fucking
Yeah.
baby?
Well, I was in public, so like not really, but like I teared up for sure.
I was like hyperventilating crying. Especially, okay, to give the
Oh my
description
gosh.
of the book, we follow a young woman named Hazel
Yeah.
who is suffering from an intense form of cancer. She's stage 4, I believe she says at one point. And she meets Augustus
Lung
Waters at a
cancer.
group. She meets Augustus Waters at a group counseling session, and they start a close friendship. And it is just, it's so good. Like, it's one of those ones that it probably has even less plot than An Abundance of Catherines, but it does it so much better.
Yeah. It's a lot of just like them kind of musing on what it's like to be dying in a very teenagery way that like just hit really hard.
And it's them using on dying, but with it like being actual like a risk. It's not just like
Yeah.
them being
Yeah,
like
they have a
in
very
Abundance of
unique
Catherines and be like, what do I
perspective
want
on
to do?
that.
I want to be important. And then yeah, theirs is like, no, they have to
Mhm.
face this inevitability. Her conversations with her parents about not wanting to leave them alone or like not wanting them to have nothing after she's
Mhm.
gone. My God. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I read this when I was younger as well,
Yeah.
of course.
Mhm. What did you remember? Like, did you remember how it ended? Did you have like, or were
I
there
remembered
things that
everything.
shocked you?
I remembered everything.
Yeah, me too. I
I
read this multiple times as a teen.
They actually went touring for the movie and I went to listen to them speak. It was like her, John Green, and
Oh.
the guy. And I got to go
Oh.
see them. It was crazy packed with people. It was insane. Cuz
Yeah,
I
imagine.
so I was a fan. I religiously watched The Secret Life of the American Teenager. So when she was cast in this movie,
Oh, okay.
it was everything for me. I was so excited for her to get this movie.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I saw this movie in theaters too. Um, I like have very vivid memories of seeing this movie in theaters and crying. Um, when I was in 7th grade. I think it was the end of 7th grade or the end of 8th grade maybe when this movie came out.
I went to like a painted place where you like make plates and paint them. I wish I still had it, but I made a plate that was
Mhm.
blue and it said okay, okay, and it had like it was Tumblr central. This book was
Uh-huh.
Tumblr everywhere.
It was. It was.
It was so
Um,
perfectly
but
cheesy
it
and
held up.
beautiful.
I thought it was really good.
I so agree.
Yeah, I was thinking um, like I feel like he really gets at the like pretentious, deep thinking teenager experience where like you feel like your thoughts are so deep and important and in some ways they are, but in some ways it's like you're 15,
Yeah.
and I just see that. I see that like it speaks to teenagers so well. Like it's no surprise that this book is actually really popular with young adults or was when it came out. Um, but it also like I felt like I had a different perspective on it reading it as an adult.
I sobbed like a baby. I was absolutely crushed. The
Mm-hmm.
scene when, now we're getting into big spoilers, but the scene where he wants them
Yeah,
to
big
do
spoilers.
eulogies for him was just awful for me.
The line, if they came to give me from Isaac, if they came to give me robot eyes, I'd say no because I wouldn't want to see a world without Augustus Waters. And then, I'd take the robot eyes because come on, they're robot eyes. Like, such a good line and such a good sentiment. Like, I just liked it. I love that a lot.
Isaac is so wonderful. These characters have such a maturity that
Mm-hmm.
worked so well. Oh my god,
Yeah.
when August's dad hugs Hazel and says, "I thank God
Mm-hmm.
every day for you." Oh my god. It's honestly such an amazing tragedy. Like it's just such
Mm-hmm.
I think this should
Mm-hmm.
be a classic for a reason. I think it was really good.
Yeah.
And I remember I forgot until I was rereading it, and he does the acknowledge or the dedication is
Mm-hmm.
to Esther, and I had that book of
The
Esther.
dedication. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had the book that she had as well. That was all about her time in cancer treatment and stuff like that. And so it felt like even
Oh.
though he says in the
Yeah, I
back that a
know
lot of
that
it is fictional. Sorry, it's just delaying a little bit.
keep going. There's now I'm on the other laptop, there's a lag. Just go ahead.
I would say in the end, at the end part of the book, he says that like a lot of it was fictional. Like there's no actual medication that would heal her. Like that's fake. It still felt like he
Mm-hmm.
spent so much time learning about this.
Yeah, for sure. And just to talk about Esther for a second, I know that I have been an on and off viewer of the Vlog Brothers YouTube channel since I was before I was reading this when I was reading this book. Um, and every year, I think it's Esther's birthday. Either it's her birthday or the day she died, but I'm pretty sure it's her birthday every year on her birthday. Um, John and his brother make videos telling each other they love each other. Because it's as one thing that's something that Esther wanted was I want my birthday to be Esther Day and it to be a day celebrating platonic and family love and that telling people you don't always tell
Wow.
you love them that you love them. And I think that's
So good.
wonderful
Yeah.
because
That
she
is
was
wonderful.
she was a teenager when she died and yeah. And I think that's a very profound thing to want as a teenager.
I think this is just a masterpiece of his writing. Like I think it's so
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
held up in a way that surprised me. It hit harder than I expected.
Mhm. I feel
I
like
just
the
loved it.
main criticism that this book gets is the quotable lines. People say they're so fake deep, like pain demands to be felt, and I fell in love the way you fall asleep, and
Oh,
what's the other one?
you put the killing thing between
There's
your
so
teeth.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many of these quote unquote fake deep lines, but I think that works. The fact that they're a little cheesy and a little cliche works so well in context of these are teenagers, they're 16, this is the biggest thing in their lives, but it's not the biggest thing in the world, and that's okay because we all just, I don't really know what I'm trying to say. I just think that it didn't take it took it was very serious to the characters, but also the writing didn't I feel like John Green doesn't think that these are the most profound things to ever be said.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
feel like the criticism of these lines mm, doesn't actually understand what John Green was trying to do here.
I totally agree. And I also feel like because I was going to say they work in context, those lines, and
They
they
work in the
are
context of the story and the characters.
and they are novel, deep, life-changing things that these people are learning for the first time. Like, it is cheesy because so many of us have learned these in different ways, but for these characters it is so it
Yeah.
is life or death day to day.
Um, I also think like I was recently listening to a podcast episode that John Green did where he and Hank Green, he and his brother, they were reading their 1-star Goodreads reviews, the 1-star reviews of their books. And John went and looked at some 1-star reviews of The Fault in Our Stars, and there was one, like the top 1-star review was saying like, pain demands to be felt is such a lame line. It's just like saying chocolate demands to be eaten. And it's like, no,
Not
you're wrong for that, actually.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of critiques you could have on most of his work, but after rereading this one, I don't want to say it's like exempt from fault because I only think I gave it a 4 technically. I don't think I gave it a full 5. But I think as a work of art, I'm happy that this is the one that propelled him so far in his career.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. My gut reaction after finishing it was 5 stars, and I'm stingy with my 5 stars, so, like, with a reread, I feel like it's different. I haven't put it in my spreadsheet yet, and it's possible it'll go in as a 4.5, but, I think it's gonna go in as a 5.
Yeah, can I be honest? Talking about it makes me want to give it a 5. The more I've sat
Yeah.
afterwards finishing it, the more I've appreciated it even more.
Mhm.
I think it's the perfect
Yeah.
length. I don't think it gets boring in any
Mhm.
sections. I don't think it needed anything else
Mhm.
added. Even he said
Mhm.
that he spent weeks in Amsterdam to write those scenes. Oh, you wanted to talk about the
Yeah.
Anne Frank scene.
Oh, yeah, I love the scene in the Anne Frank house. That's another one that people criticize, I think. A scene that people criticize a lot of, like, number 1, "Oh, it's disrespectful." Number 2, the fact that people clapped after saying, like, "Oh, that's unrealistic." I think all of that was brilliantly done. You can say, like, you can very validly criticize the characters for doing that in the Anne Frank house and saying that's disrespectful. But I don't think the scene was like as it was written
Mm.
was disrespectful at all. And I don't think I just think it's brilliant. Like the symbolic resonance of that happening in that room, I think was brilliant because um the Diary of Anne Frank, like she was a teenager too, and she was not thinking about what was going on in the world. She was thinking about her own life and her own feelings and her own I just feel like there's a lot of comparisons there. Um, and I think it's brilliant to set that scene there, their first kiss there, because of the symbolism, but also because it kind of emphasizes how when you and I feel like a lot of this book emphasizes this, that, like, when you are a teenager and you are in these feelings, it is the most important thing in the world and the most significant thing that can ever happen to anyone. Like, that's how big it is. That's how big these feelings are as a teenager. That's how big everything is when you're a teenager, like, everything is all consuming. And I feel like that scene makes that point really well. Um, and I think that in the way the scene was written, John Green showed a lot of care and respect towards Anne Frank's story, um,
It
while
wasn't just they went to
also
this tourist
expressing
place.
yeah, exactly, and while also expressing the feelings of the characters and how their little lives are the most important things in their world.
I think those are really good points. I feel like, first of all, also they're fake. Like they kiss in the Anne Frank house. They are fake. They are fake people.
It didn't
They
actually
don't
happen.
exist.
Yeah.
But I also, the more when we're talking about it, a lot of that scene was also the people like around her watching her struggle up all the steps and watching like it had a lot to do with their other like the personal struggles they were going through more than just like if Colin and his girlfriend went up and kissed up there. This was like it was a feat for them to climb up there, and she wanted to do it to honor her. She was like, if she could stay here and give her life in this house, I can make it up these steps.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that's a brilliant scene.
They're fake. Like that is also a
they're
very
fake
important
people.
thing. They're not real people.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah. Because I remember there was so much drama when Justin Bieber did something up in the I remember Justin Bieber went to the Anne Frank house and said Anne Frank would have been a believer. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Sorry, that just made me think.
Maybe true, but not relevant to say. Like I feel like reading her personality, like if she had lived in that era, probably. But like not you. That's not something you say.
It just made me think of it because of that. It's just such a It's just a really dumb sentence in general. Anne Frank would have been a believer.
It is a really dumb sentence. That's funny though.
I cannot wait to watch this movie. I really hope we do.
Yeah. We absolutely have to. Let us know we don't have to, but we should. This one, we've got to watch it.
Yeah. Especially once I finish, I was like, oh. That's why I'm like, if we don't get to Let It Snow this holiday season, we could always do it another holiday season.
We can watch it next
year, The Fault in Our Stars, I want to read this one. We gotta. The whole story, too, of her and August, or is it Augustus? Whatever. Gus.
It's Augustus.
Them, finding out that their favorite author is a broken man. I think it's just such an interesting critique that John Green is also doing as an author himself. And when he yells at Hazel and he's like, you came dressed up like that character, and Hazel doesn't know that it's actually his daughter,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good meaning there.
I like that the things that he says to the kids, the things he says to Hazel and Gus are disgusting and horrible. And I like that John Green didn't shy away from that. He was like, some people are so broken.
Yeah, I remember I remember John Green talking about the movie and saying we wanted it to be PG-13, so we got one F-bomb in the movie. And it's in that scene that because it doesn't happen in the F-bomb isn't in the book. I don't remember if it's Gus or Hazel. I think it's Gus, actually. We'll find out. Says I don't know if it's fuck you or you're a fucking, but it was that was the very intentionally placed F-bomb in that movie so that they could keep it PG-13, but really intentionally use that word for the emotions that were happening in that scene.
I think the reveals when Augustus, the little hints that he's sick and how oh my gosh, I loved when Hazel finds out he's sick and she says, how could I ever think I would be a grenade? Because I would happily I'm happy to be the collateral of his damage.
Yeah. I remember reading this. I was thinking, actually, I feel like people all the time, a question people often ask readers is if you could go back and read one book for the first time, what would it be? I would love to go back and read this for the first time.
I agree.
I think
I'm giving it a 5-star
experience.
I'm changing my rating. I did kind of give it a 4.5 anyway. So we're gonna do a 5 and just say it's a 4.5.
Uh-huh.
I can't believe how much it held up.
Yeah,
And
me too.
it didn't feel like, I think a lot of books, I like books that are sad. I love books where characters die. But sometimes it feels like, oh, you're just doing this for, not to be gross, but a lot of like torture porn is the term now, or like for like, you just wanted to make people sad. This felt so intentional. It didn't feel like it was just to make us sad.
Yeah,
Because it was
I
such
agree.
a, as an adult too now, having seen a close family member decline in this way, like Augustus, hit even harder too, because it's just so realistic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the family sometimes, like, I mean, I didn't realize, I guess one thing that did surprise me is I didn't realize she wasn't even there when he passed. Like, he passes in the hospital one night with his family. And it's just like, it's so realistic that even though they're so happy that the kids have each other, they are still kids and there's more things going on, and she couldn't be there for him for everything. It's not like, because I reread A Walk to Remember, and that is obviously a different kind of book. It's a Nicholas Sparks book. But, sorry, spoilers alert for this 30-year-old Nicholas Sparks novel.
That's fine.
But the character has cancer, and he rushes, and they have a wedding, and they get married, and then she dies at home. And I'm like, this was just realistic. We're like, that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think, honestly, I think this is
what a good book.
on book club book. This is I would highly recommend this for even modern book clubs to still do.
Yeah.
This was such a banger to end on. This was the banger to end the club on this year.
Oh, ending the year strong. Our first year of this book club, because we started in January.
So we reflect on what we've read.
Yeah. Okay. So we started with Hunger Games.
Oh, amazing. A banger to start.
Which slapped.
So good.
Except for the new one.
Don't want to talk about that.
Songbirds and Snakes I did not like, but the original trilogy slapped. Then that was January, February. March, April, we read.
Beautiful Creatures? Was that Beautiful Creatures
Maybe.
next?
I'm gonna verify. From announcements. Okay, so starting with Hunger Games. Yep, Beautiful Creatures. Castor Chronicles was March and April. Not a fan, personally.
Was so fun. I really loved watching the movie together.
The movie was really fun to watch. It was bad, but it was really fun to watch.
I thought that was a good experience. And I did really like the first book. I'd say the rest became a train wreck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad I read them. I think I had a decently fun time, but they weren't great. May and June was the Sarah Dessens.
So good. They hit.
Yeah.
I'm actually impressed by I'm impressed by how consistently, like, they were very different from John Green. I feel like they were hitting a slightly different audience, like a different age a little bit. But they both hit in very different ways.
Yeah. And then July and August was The Summer I Turned Pretty, which was the big one that I feel like we disagreed on.
Yeah. I can see yours, though. I think mine is nostalgia glasses on mine for a lot of mine.
Yeah, that's okay. And then Uglies. And then these.
One more thing I want to bring up about the John Greens.
Yes.
Just so I don't forget. The Fault in Our Stars, I think he only has 2 in the perspective of women. The Fault in Our Stars and Turtles All the Way Down.
Yeah,
and
I think that's true.
It's rare that I prefer the female perspective from a man, but I actually think that if this book would have been written in Augustus's perspective, I would not have liked it the same.
No, I think it's because he really does research to embody a character. And when he's writing from a teenage boy's perspective, I just don't relate to that perspective. And I think it's accurate to how teenage boys think and act, and maybe accurate to his experience too. But it's just not, I just don't like teenage boys. So I'm like, and I think he does write teenage girls really well too. And he writes them very differently than the way he writes boys. So
I hope one day we get to Turtles. I know it's less of a nostalgia because it came out later, but I think I read it
I would like to reread it.
I read it before I had my OCD diagnosis, I think. So I'm intrigued to like reread it with that lens again.
I think it came out in 17 or 18, 2017 or 2018. Maybe a little earlier. I don't know.
I think you're right on the time.
Yeah.
But
have you read Anthropocene Reviewed, his nonfiction recent one?
No, and I want to so badly.
I thought it was really, really good.
I really want to read that, and I want to read Hank's books too. I wasn't much of a Blog Brothers kid, but my school would always put on what's his John Green's like history show and his Green science show. Yeah, they would put that on all the time. And I always like sometimes I remember that they created VidCon, and that just always surprises me.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on John Green, or should we say what we're reading next?
No more thoughts other than that it was really fun. I do really recommend book clubs read it, and it was good. That's it.
Okay, up next. Yeah, we decided, but we haven't announced yet. So this is our announcement. Do you want to do the honors?
If I'm remembering the right one, it was I believe we've agreed on doing the Lunar Chronicles. Yes.
And we're going to take 3 months, right?
Yes, which I think is going to be good.
So because there's thicker books and there's 4 of them, right?
4.5.
So there's 4. Those the Lunar Chronicles, 4.5. Okay, so 3 months. So January, February, and March. We'll have our live show end of March, maybe early April. Let's aim for end of March.
I agree. They're just a little thicker.
They're thicker, and there's 4.5 of them. So giving you time. Did you read these when you were younger?
Oh yeah, I have all my hardcovers sitting right over here next to me. And I'm so excited because go ahead.
I read them in college, so like much later, and I don't think I ever actually finished the series. So I'm excited to revisit these.
I read them once when I was younger, and I loved them. Specifically Cress, the 3rd one. She's my favorite, so I'm excited to reread hers. I actually am so excited because I've kept my copies waiting to see if they were ones that I wanted to keep. Because I'm like, do I want to keep these? And now they have the all new covers. There was a DreamWorks movie in the works. I don't know if that's still happening.
Oh, yeah.
And our goal with this, we were kind of hoping, because there's no movie for this, our plan was to do The Fault in Our Stars as our movie during this slot.
Yeah. So we'll find a time that lots of people are available to watch Fault in Our Stars, since we have plenty of time because there's no movie for the Lunar Chronicles. And yeah, we'll see you back here end of March. The Discord is linked down below if you are not in it and would like to join. And
this was so fun.
This was so fun.
Thanks for our first year, Lizzie. First year
of book club. Thank you. This was lovely.
It was a good time.
And thanks to anyone who stopped by this live. Thanks to anyone who's read anything with us this whole year. We appreciate you. And is that all we've got to say?
We'll see you in 2025.
See you in 2025.
Bye.
Bye. Gonna take a second to end.